In the previous video, we talked about transition property for animating properties. In this video, let us learn about CSS animations. Now for any animation that is more complex than the ones that we defined in our previous videos, we will have to use the animate property. So for example, if we want to apply multiple transformations and we want to control the timing of each of these transformations, so for this we can create a custom animation. So head over to the folder number 10 and create a new file and name it as animations.html. And let us also create a CSS file for it, animations.css. So let us head over to animations.html file. So now let us quickly scaffold our basic HTML boilerplate. So type exclamation and press tab, CSS animations. Next, let us link our animations.css file with our HTML file, animations.css. So for this demo, let us define the div with the class of element. And now let us head over to our CSS file to define the styles for this div. So right here, let us first target the div with the class of element and give this a width of 300 pixels, a height of 300 pixels, and a background color of aqua. So let us give this a preview in the browser. So this is what we get. Now to define a complex animation, we need to define a bunch of keyframes. So to define keyframes, we use the add keyframes CSS rule. So add keyframes. And we specify the name of the animation that we want to create. Let us name it as animation-1. Now you can call it anything. Then we add a pair of curly braces. Now in this pair of curly braces is where we define our keyframes. For each keyframe, we specify the percentage of time through the animation sequence. For example, we can say 0%, and that represents the first frame. Then we have our curly braces, and it is here we define the styles for this first frame. For example, transform, and set this to an invocation of the rotate function, and let us rotate it by 45 degrees. Next, let us define our second keyframe. So at 12.5%, let us define another keyframe and bring it back to the normal position by applying the rotate function in the anti-clockwise direction by 45 degrees. Then at 25%, let us define another keyframe and this time rotate it by 45 degrees in the anti-clockwise direction from its normal position. So transform, rotate minus 45 degrees. Next at 50%, let us define another keyframe and bring the div back to its normal position by rotating it by 45 degrees in the clockwise direction. So transform, rotate 45 degrees. Now this div is at its normal position. So let us define another keyframe at 62.5% and this time make the div larger by using a scaling factor of 1. So transform and set this to an invocation of the scale function and pass a value of 1 to it. Next at 75%, let us again make the div larger by using a scaling factor of 1.2. So let me copy this and paste it down below. So 75, 1.2. Next at 87.5. This time make the div smaller than what it was in the previous keyframe by using a scaling factor of 1.1. Now finally at 100%, let us bring the div back to its normal position by using a scaling factor of 1. Now in order to make this complex animation work, we first need to go at the top where we have defined our CSS rule for the div with the class of element. Now right here we can define a bunch of CSS properties. So let us first specify the animation name and set this to animation 1 and then specify the animation duration and set this to 2.6 seconds. So let us save the changes and give this a preview. So this is what we get. So with CSS Animations, we can get really creative and create sleek and awesome looking animations. Now we have a couple of other properties that we can specify. So the next one is animation delay. So let us wait 2 seconds before starting the animation. So animation delay 2 seconds. So let us give this a preview. And this is how it looks. Next we have the animation iteration count property, which is used to specify how many times we want to run the animation. So the default value for this is 1, but we can again give it any other value. So let us set this to infinite in order to make it loop all over again. Animation iteration count infinite. So let us give this a preview and you can see the animation keeps on looping over and over again. Next, let us specify the animation timing function, which we had learned about in the previous video. So we can set this to linear ease in, ease out, or we can define our own custom cubic Bezier function. So for this time, let us set this to ease in animation hyphen timing function ease hyphen in. So give this a preview. So our animation starts slowly and then progresses quickly. Next we have the animation direction property. Now the default value for this is normal, which basically plays the animation from start to end. So in this order, from top to down. But we can change it to reverse and then the animation will start from here and proceed this way, from bottom to top. So let us set this to reverse and give this a preview. So this is how it looks. Next we can also alternate between normal and reverse directions. So the direction of animation totally depends on what you want. Now we also have a shorthand for this, which is called as the animation property. And then using this, you can specify all these properties on a single line. So let me show you this. Let me comment this first and use the animation property. So first we need to specify the animation name. So animation hyphen 1. Then the animation duration 2.6 seconds. Next the timing function ease in. Then the delay 2 seconds. Next we need to specify the iteration count. So set this to infinite. Then we need to specify the animation direction reverse. So with these changes, let us give this a preview and you can see everything works the same. So this is how we create CSS animations.